What's up, my brothers? In this video, I want to talk about the concept of genuine burning desire, why it matters. It's in chapter 3 of my book, The Unplugged Alpha, by the way. And I have a post here that I want to read about the significance of why it is so damn important, because I really feel sorry for this guy having to listen to this. So I'm going to dive into this and read this. The title is, I, a 31-year-old male, overheard my fiancé, 29-year-old female, talking to her friends about how she sees me, and I'm crushed. Right, so he goes, we met in college and remained just casual acquaintances at the time. We both took a couple of the same classes, hung out a few times, stayed in contact, never too terribly close. We both graduated, and a few years later we reconnected after randomly running into each other. We unknowingly both moved to the same city. It was around that time that my career really took off. Surprising, he started to make some serious money. She became a lot more interested in him. A few senior engineers from my company recruited me for a startup they had been working on, and we got some big clients and venture capital funding pretty early on. So within a few years, the money really started to roll in. She and I started dating then, and honestly, up until now, been nothing but very happy. Things were going great, and I felt like I was really close to her. I've been nothing but doting and appreciative of her. This all began to shift last week when I overheard her talking to her friends about how she views me. I had planned to work later than usual, but came home early with a stomachache and went to lie on the bed. I must have fallen asleep for about 2 hours, but when I woke up, I could hear her in the living room with some of her friends while they were drinking. By the way, alcohol is the great teller of truths. You want to see what somebody really thinks? Get them drunk, and they'll spill all. Anyway, he goes on. The conversation was pretty casual until they started talking about the wedding and our relationship in general. Through the laughter, she went on to describe how she landed herself the perfect rich simp. This is him. How she basically controlled me and how I would give her the life she always wanted. I was just a tool for her to use. Her friends thought it was hysterical and egged her on. I know she was drinking and I know maybe she was joking, but for me, the trust is gone. I don't feel like I can still marry her when I heard her own words and the way she sees me. When she later went to the bedroom, she seemed surprised to see me, but she also assumed I'd been asleep. I haven't confronted her yet, and I'm just dreading canceling the wedding, which I scheduled for next April. Let's talk about genuine burning desire and this notion that happens more often than you think, where women settle for just good enough. So, women have these phases in their life where, generally speaking, women spend a good part of their 20s, their college years. You know, these two folks met in their college years, obviously. They never dated, nothing ever seemed to happen, but she clearly became very, very interested in him when he joined a startup and money started to roll in. That seems pretty convenient now, doesn't it? Now, the problem with this is, if she spent her 20s partying away, racking up notches, sleeping with the Chads and the Tyrones and all the alpha males, and then she runs into this guy when he's getting into a startup and money starts to roll in, and then they start dating and everything goes tickety-boo. Now, I've said this before, and I get heat for this, so I want to hover on this for just a moment, okay? The thing that you have to understand about women is they can act very well when they want something, when it's to their benefit. And especially in scenarios like this, and I've seen this a lot of times. I've done consults with well over 1,000 guys right now, and the notion of a dutiful beta wifing up the party girl that spent her 20s, you know, having fun, doing everything she wanted, and then comes back to the good guy, you know, the reliable guy, and then wants to get married or starts dating him with the intention of getting married later on, is actually very, very common. There's a stand-up comic, I don't remember if it was Chris Rock or Chris Tucker, but they made a big joke about this that did very well. And the soundbite was something along the lines of, fellas, the reason why your woman is pissed off at you is because you weren't her first choice. And then the entire stadium erupts into laughter because, of course, people laugh at jokes, and there's always truth to every joke. Now, he mentioned it in this post. He was talking about, you know, well, maybe she was just joking. He's trying to write it off. You know, guys like to complicate their life and justify why, of course. I've said this many times as well. But the truth of the matter is there's always truth to every joke. So whenever you hear a joke and something's funny, there's an underlying truth to it that makes it funny. That's why we laugh at jokes. So don't ever dismiss something like, oh, she must have been just kidding, or it was a joke, or you should never take it seriously. I believe you should take jokes seriously to some degree. You know, you have to see the underlying truth beneath what is so comical about it. So again, back to this point, in chapter 3 of my book, it's titled Why Genuine Burning Desire Matters. Because basically you don't want to be her second, third, or fourth choice. You only want to deal with women on a long-term basis if she has genuine burning desire for you and you're her first choice. Because what ends up happening if you're her third or fourth or second choice or whatever it happens to be, you happen to be that dutiful beta guy that was just good enough, the good guy who's reliable, who has all of his assets squared away, you know, that guy. And then she's like, hey, you know, let's start dating, let's go out. Oh, what have you been doing? Oh, that's a nice car. What is that, a Mercedes AMG? Pretty sweet. You know, oh, your house, oh, your lake house, the jet skis, the boat. Oh, you have a plane too, you're a private pilot. You know, like, you keep going down the list, and these guys are targets for these party girls that spent their 20s, you know, having their fun, when they come to the realization one day that, oh, you know what? All those guys that I partied with don't make the best husband stock, but you know what? He's good looking enough, he's tall enough, he makes a lot of money, and I'm very pretty, so I can always have a kid with him, right? Now, the part that doesn't get discussed that often is that women know how divorce works. Family law is very friendly towards the women. It's hostile towards the guys. I've always said that marriage is very high risk, low reward for men, and the opposite is true for women. It's low risk, high reward, especially the way that women operate, because they're hypergamous and they always tend to marry across the socioeconomic scale, so they date across and up. They don't usually date across and down, or marry across and down. They might date across and down if he's an alpha male. Short-term dating, a little bit of sex, have some fun. Doesn't matter if he's been in jail, as long as he's got some tattoos and a motorcycle, we're good to go, right? But when it comes to the long-term prospects for women, they generally mate select very differently, which is a problem for men that men aren't paying attention to. This is something I want you guys to pay very close attention to, because you will screw up your life, or you will at least have big setbacks with your life if you invite the wrong woman into your life. And if you're inviting a woman that it doesn't see you as her first choice, or as a beta male, or as a dutiful provider, or as a just good enough guy, or her second or third or backup plan. One of the funniest ones was, you know, you always hear these conversations where women always strike up a deal with a guy where it's like, you know, if we're not married and we're both single by the time we're 35 and we don't have kids, what do you say you and I get together and we have a child together, or we have a family, sort of thing? You guys have probably heard this before. I'm sure right now there's somebody feverishly in the comments telling a story about how they did this and exactly how it unfolded for them. But this is a very, very common trope, especially when women get into their mid-30s or even late 30s and they start to get very, very desperate. They start to look for the just good enough guy, or the good guy that would be there to pay the bills, to have the kid. She knows she's past her prime. She can't be that selective or that demanding when it comes to the kind of guy that she wants to have kids with. And then she'll just find the guy that's just good enough. And the problem with dudes is they're just way too thirsty. You know, when it comes to men, if they don't have an abundance mindset, if they have more of a scarcity mindset, they have difficulty with women. And there's a lot of guys that I see 30 plus now where they're out of shape, they're overweight, they're betas, they drink way too much soy, they subscribe to ideologies and thinking that lowers their testosterone, and lifestyle choices that lowers their testosterone. They don't compete, they don't operate in combat sports. You know, they're kind of like the average geeky sort of, you know, dude that can make a lot of money. Most of the guys that I know that are world-class entrepreneurs that are making serious bank, they're mostly beta males. I'd say about 80% of them. They're not unplugged from the matrix. They're a servant of the matrix, if you will. They haven't unplugged yet. So again, this is really, really important, guys. I wanted to make sure that I covered this in specific detail. I'm sure right now is a good opportunity for you guys to leave a comment, smash the like button. Pinned in the top comment, there's a bunch of useful links I'd like you to check out. Links to my book, The Unplugged Alpha. If you haven't read it, get it. It's available. And other interesting things you might want to take a look at, including my supplement line, my podcast, and a few other things. See you guys later. Have an awesome day. Peace out.